All right, call the meeting to order at 5 p.m. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes from our last meeting.
I'll move to approve the minutes from December 9th.
Headed by Mike. There was some changes. Phil, you sent out some changes?
Yeah. I sent two simple things. It was bottom of page 1, the last sentence should say sent, I think, not send. And then the page 2, first paragraph, last sentence should say personnel, not personal.
Yep.
So, simple stuff.
All right. Any other corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay. Second item, survey. Erica, if you can share that.
Sarah sent us in December.
All right. Did everybody have a chance to go through this?
Yeah, I had provided response comments early on back in December
Yep.
to the for a couple of minor edits, which I assume I didn't hear back specifically, but they were mostly, I think they were mostly like spelling. I'll have to look back now.
Page 1, line 1.
Okay.
And the only other thing I had thought of in the meantime is if Sarah is pretty savvy with SurveyMonkey, she would know this, but there is a way to select when you design a survey, whether someone can come in multiple times using the same device. And I think we should make sure that that is not allowed, because what we don't want is one person who has a very strong opinion to just keep logging into the survey and stacking the numbers with that opinion. If there happen to be two citizens in one house who both want to comment, then one can do it on their phone and one can do it on their home computer or whatever. But
Right.
I don't think we should allow multiple responses with the same device.
Phil, do you know if that's easy enough to do, or?
It's pretty easy to select.
It's in the setup of the survey, you mean?
Yes.
Erica, can you scroll down? I haven't
I
looked
sure
at this in a
can. I
while.
didn't know what you guys want to look at just yet.
And the reason I'm bringing that up in the meeting right now is that may need to go into the introduction of the survey.
Right.
That you may be allowed to take the survey once per electronic device.
You want to take a look at each question at a time? Or did everyone look at it and provided feedback if necessary?
I think I'm good. I liked Mike's responses. I just don't know if they had gotten changed.
I was trying to look to see where it said gauge. My guess is that it was in the body. It's still, so the corrections have not been made, because I see right here in the first line.
Yeah, gauge is spelled incorrectly. Yep. That was one of them.
And then line 3, we should use something to separate the ideas of emergency versus routine. In here, Mike, is this the section you're talking about?
I guess so. I'm trying to go back to my, I'm going back to my email to find my comments.
Your comment said, page 1, line 3, should we use something to separate the ideas of emergency versus routine, such as adding the word both before emergency or as well as in between emergency?
Oh, that's right. Yes, I didn't, this is up to you guys. I just didn't know if we wanted to make it even clearer that we're talking about two types of situations, which will prepare people further on in the survey for those questions.
So I like maybe the word both. The town of Willington is evaluating community interest in receiving communications from town government during both emergencies and routine situations.
I like that.
We'll add both.
Is it really an and or? What if they just say, we just want emergency?
I think some of the questions flush
Yeah,
that, don't
yeah.
they?
Plus that, yeah.
Let's look at the questions. What types of event do you expect to be notified of as emergency communications?
And then question 2 is about the general administrative.
What type of events do you expect to be notified of as general administrative communications? What methods of communication would you expect to get communications via from? What is your preferred backup if primary system is inoperative? This is the one that gets tricky because I think, would you prefer to be automatically enrolled into a system with an opt-out feature? Or do you prefer opt-in at your discretion? I think the only thing we have is opt-in, right? There
Right.
is no automatic enrollment. We don't have a, even if we were using Everbridge, even if that were what we chose
Right.
and supported, and that was the suggestion of this committee, there is no list to start from.
Right.
Well, wasn't there the carryover from
There is the carryover from
the state
the
system,
state system, yes.
right? And that was,
I thought they said that we'd still need to build it from scratch. We wouldn't have that.
For the routine side of it, we would. For an emergency side of it, we would pull off of that data.
yeah, from CT Alert, right?
If we were using CT Alert, which
Correct.
we would still have access to in a different capacity, right? Depending on the situation, we may still want to use that even if we went with our own system.
Trying
There
to
would,
the
into our own
conversation.
version of Everbridge, I thought I heard him say, we would be building that from scratch. We wouldn't have an opt-in. It would all be
Yes.
opt-in.
Wasn't some of this though about other platforms? So basically, I think there was a conversation about taking existing contact lists we had in town, saying email lists from certain, the school or whatever. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what it was at the time. It all seemed really important at the time.
Sarah had a work call that went over, so she's about to join us. Maybe that's what it was, because my understanding from my notes were that we would have to build even our own version of Everbridge. We wouldn't have access to that.
Yeah, there was a question about if we were going to import any pre-made lists though.
You know, the town doesn't, I mean, we don't have a
Mm.
phone list, right? Or we have those who've opted into emails, but I'm not sure how it would populate that. If it would give us that breakdown.
I can't remember it anymore.
My notes from that meeting say, Doug said it was important to build your database. And then, trying to figure out how to get the school database as a start. So I think the point was, you're going to have some, but you are still going to have to build.
Right.
Yeah. And I think the school is really the only thing we'd have to get, and you would have to get their permission, wouldn't you, Phil? Okay. I mean, we'll ask it and then see where it goes. Would you opt out and opt in? Oh, would your opt out and opt in answers be different between emergency and general messaging?
All right, was there anything else for the questions that anybody would like to see different? Or was there any questions is there another question that we should ask or something that we should take away? I think for a start, this was pretty good. I think this being the first round and getting it out to people, see what their responses are. I think this is really good.
So
You need
what?
Go ahead, Erica.
Go ahead, Phil. Go ahead.
Can you scroll down again? Because I'm not sure we need that last question. Because if those are check boxes, and don't they have the opportunity to say that above? I know it's not opting in or opting out, but
Which one you saying we don't need 6 or
I
both?
don't think yeah.
I think this is where we were trying to get at whether or not they would react or respond differently or sign in differently
Right.
if they thought they were getting just emergency, if they thought they were getting general messaging. That's what we were trying to get at.
Okay, that makes sense then. Thank you.
All right, any other questions about the questions?
Well, my question is, when you press done, what message do you get back? Do you get like a thank you for taking our survey?
Yeah, SurveyMonkey allows you to set up a final message that gives them a thank you and whatever other information you want to put in there.
I think that's important. And then to also let them know that they didn't opt in, like that they just completed a survey. They didn't actually opt into anything because they might think they did.
Okay.
Somebody will.
I agree with that,
Maybe in the
Christina, because,
introduction.
well, one of the things that I was concerned about is we're trying to gauge whether or not folks would utilize a system. And another one of the important things is there an appetite to support the system? It's, although minimal cost, there is still a recurring annual cost. And that was one of our issues. If there was a huge appetite from our residents about a system like this, there's also a cost involved in it. I don't know that I want to get that deep into it with these questions, but letting them know that we are still determining whether or not to purchase our own system, and that's what this survey would help us to determine.
So maybe it's thank you for taking the survey. Your feedback will be very helpful to us in evaluating whether or not the town would like to purchase a system of this nature. You know, we please be advised that there'll be more information of how to opt into such a system if that decision's ever made, or something.
Yeah,
That, yes, that.
I think
It
that's
needs
a
to
good
be in there
closing.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
the
have
other
two,
thing,
I have two
Erica,
ideas.
hope they read it.
Should we ask them if they've subscribed to the CT alert list already?
And what would be the point in asking in that, Stuart?
To see if the engagement that people are requesting matches their actions.
Okay.
And it kind of tells them, hey, there's CT alert out there. Why don't you go sign up for it if you haven't? But the question would be, have you signed up for CT alert? If they're also interested in what's going on for getting emergency notifications, ideally they would have used the CT alert. It
So maybe
also tells
are you currently enrolled in the statewide CT alert system? And that's a simple yes or no.
Also lets you know if you're gonna end up using that list, what kind of numbers are, they have the mystical numbers of how many phone lines it goes out to, but kind of matching the survey with CT alert to see if that's a valid list to operate off as well.
So maybe that's our first question.
Yeah, or last.
Maybe we should have an open-ended question at the end too, of like, is there anything that you would like us to know, or
Yeah.
or even be just say something about how we're looking for more feedback from people to help with the decision making, and please put your comments that would
Yeah.
help us or something. And that way you'll end up with some quotes and some good things to say at the end.
a few
I think
things to
that's a
throw
good
away.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea.
I do too.
Erica, to your thought before about trying to gauge interest in supporting it, like financially and all that, I think one thing that will be telling is how many people participate in this.
Yeah.
know,
I agree.
If we get 8 responses back, then that'll give us a little bit of an idea that there's not a lot of interest.
Mhm.
We get 400 back, then we can say, that's not bad.
Right.
Right.
And share it far and wide too.
Yes.
Right. Erica, refresh my memory. Where's the responses going to?
We set up We set up an email, and hang on, let's see. I think it's called survey. I'm going to stop sharing momentarily. While I go to my email here. Okay, it's simply, I think it's survey@wellingtonct.org.
Okay,
I believe that's where they're all going.
okay.
Sarah, when you set it up,
Yeah, it should let me add it should let me change the email address so they all go there.
Okay.
Yes.
yeah, I think that's where we had everything going.
Okay.
You know, we
Um,
set up an email and my inbox just says survey. So I'm pretty sure it's just survey@wellingtonct.org.
okay. And I think the tool allows you as a survey administrator to log in and see responses as well in like a tabulated data sheet right through the tool. So you don't have to self-tabulate the email responses, I believe.
Right.
But I'll double check that.
Yeah, I haven't used it in years, but that was the case the last survey that I wrote. It
Yeah.
gave you
that's-
the basic analytical stuff right out.
I took it a couple times to test it out and it gave me my sample responses in that format, I think. I was just logging in to reset my password because I don't remember it from earlier in December, but
It is just survey@wellingtonct.org.
okay. All right. And then,
Oh, sorry.
oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying, Christina, I was trying to take some notes when you were speaking a little earlier, and I missed part of the great wording you had about the message at the end of the survey.
Yeah.
So the beauty
Sorry.
is this will be recorded, Sarah, and on our YouTube, and I'll share the link with you.
Oh,
recreate
oh,
it.
okay. I can go back. There we
You can go
go.
back.
I
I'll
don't-
make a note to do that. I didn't quite catch what you meant when you said last time I was on the meeting if I wanted to say something because it would be public, and then I saw these are on YouTube, and now I
Yes.
understand.
All public.
Okay.
meeting.
I think you need a date in there. Please complete this survey by, or the window for the survey will be X to X, X to Y.
If we approve it tonight, we have it out Monday. Is a 2-week time frame good enough, or do we want more than 2 weeks? And I have a follow-up after that.
I personally find, like, I don't know if maybe you'd want to go out twice, let's say, excuse my dog in the background, versus having a long response time, because I think people aren't going to remember to come back in the second week to respond if they didn't answer in the first week. That's what happens to me sometimes on surveys. So maybe you keep it in a tight window with some reminders or in a couple windows. I'm not sure.
Say the 2 weeks and then try to send out a reminder through everything we got. At least a week.
Yeah, you could do it that way.
One of the last questions I have for this group, looking for some guidance, is we are in the heart of budget. Excuse me, in the heart of budget season. And I know we had ideally hoped that we'd have this survey done and information back. If this were something we do, we'd want to plan. And the charge of this committee was to go back to the Board of Selectmen with guidance on moving on what the next step should be. So because we have costs, I have currently have them noted in our budget in the event this group moves in that direction. If you feel like that's way too premature,
How much did you block in there?
I put the higher amount for the Everbridge. So I think year
Okay.
one was just over 6,000. So it would be high if we decided to go with the lower option of the second option. And so I went with the higher just so that if we were to come back and say yes, and the Board of Selectmen agreed, then we'd have dollars in our budget. And then again, it's still got to pass through Board of Finance and the townspeople eventually.
I think that's the right thing to do.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, we've been down this road before. I think Christina's probably, you know, asked for similar things, and nobody really saw a need for it. And then we needed it and didn't have it. And it kind of goes to our point. So I thought it was best to put the dollars in there and let the chips fall where they may. If this group, we got a survey back where there's just no appetite and we still didn't think it was necessary, go forward. You can pull it back. Right, there's time.
Okay.
That actually just made me think of another question that you could ask, which is if people want to be contacted when there are important budget meetings, if they'd like to testify for or against, not testify, what, just speak about whether or not it should be included, you know, the town should do it. And that way you could have like you just download their emails off of there and let them know when the Board of Finance meetings are. I don't know, is that going too far?
No, I don't think so.
It's,
Well, going back to our
'cause you know they're gonna say they didn't know about it.
Right. What
Right.
types of, we
Yeah.
had question 2 is what types of event, and Sarah, can you tell me, can they check multiples? in
For
this
those that they
item?
can check multiples.
Okay.
Yeah, if
So
they're
what type
square
of event-
boxes, it's multiple, and if they're round, it's single.
Okay.
I believe is how that works. So
So,
I think,
so maybe the line that says town meetings could have a parentheses that says selectmen, finance, etc. You know, maybe 3 of the major selectmen,
yeah,
education, etc. or something like that.
i.e. select. Board of
Yeah,
Selectmen,
i.e.
Board of Finance, Board of Education.
Was that your point, Christina?
Well, not exactly. What I'm saying is, like, once people sort of get to the end of the survey, one of the last questions could be, please provide your email if you would like to know when the Board of Finance and town meetings are about this decision-making process.
Oh, about this,
Yeah.
this. move.
Oh, this particular
Okay.
item. Okay,
That
got
way
it.
you'd have like a list of people who are really either into it or not into it, who will show up and say stuff at the meetings because,
I got it. I thought you were talking in general.
yeah.
Perfect.
No.
No, I think that's great.
please provide your email if you'd like to be notified of town budget meetings on this topic.
Yeah, that pertain to this topic.
Yeah,
That will be coming up in March and April and May.
would they only be budget meetings, or do we leave the word budget out in any
Board of
town meeting
Selectmen.
on this
I think
topic?
we say town meetings.
Town
because they
meetings,
would-
yeah.
It could be this meeting, could be Board of Selectmen, then Board of Finance, and then the annual town meeting and the referendum. So there's multiple levels.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think the only time they wouldn't be able to speak is at the referendum. I mean, they can talk, but there's nothing, no, their only action is which bubble they fill in there.
All right, any more questions or suggestions on things to add or take away from the survey? All right. Sarah, do you think you'd be able to modify it and send it back out just so that we can review real quick? And
yeah, no problem.
is everybody comfortable approving with the changes so that when she sends it out, everybody just sends back an email response okaying it so that we can get this published?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
right at the beginning of the meeting before you got on, we did have 2 edits, which were the ones I had emailed in the beginning.
Oh, okay, I still have your note, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so the word gauge, spelled,
I misspelled it, yeah,
and
thank you.
then we were gonna use the word both in that 3rd line,
Okay,
both emergency and routine situations.
sure.
Right there. Yep.
All right,
Take
do we
care,
need
Joe.
to
Great.
do a vote to move this forward, or do we do it by email?
I move that we approve it as we have amended it today.
I'll second.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. That was the only items on our agenda. So I'll move for an adjournment.
Do you want to set a tentative date for our next meeting
Oh,
and when the results will be? While we're
Um,
all here.
So if we send it out on the 1st, do you want to try for the 18th? So we should have the results back by the 15th.
It would have to be
18th
early. 18th is the Board of Finance at 7.
So is 5 o'clock okay, or is that too early for people?
Works for me.
Or is it just, another night's fine with me. Is CIP done by then?
No.
Ugh.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Well, that's the last night on the CIP calendar.
It is. The 17th is the last one, but who knows? I mean, the 18th works for me. It will make us work a little.
I don't know if I can make that, but I'm not the end of that. I could always, if you share results ahead of time, I can always give you some feedback.
My calendar's currently open, so I should be okay. And there's nothing from 4 to 5 either, so.
Open
So-
now.
Where will the distribution list come from to populate into the survey? Like, how is it, am I populating it into the survey tool, or am I giving someone a survey link that then the town's gonna send out from that mailbox?
If you give us the link, we'll send it out through our website and our email blast that we have. We'll share it on
Okay.
social media, and then everyone will start to share the school. I assume Phil will send it out in his digital backpack.
Yeah,
And we'll
you
just
need a
use
blurb
every
with it, though.
mechanism.
You
You what?
need a blurb. You need a blurb with that. You need a couple sentences, either that or use the introduction that's in the survey.
Right.
So.
And maybe we
we'll
should
know
just
what they're-
clarify Wellington residents only, because once it goes out in social media and all,
Yes.
it
Oh, yeah,
Wellington.
Mhm.
that's a good point. Clarify it in the blurb and in the survey. Maybe it should be a question in the survey for people that missed that. Are you a resident of the town of Wellington? And then people who say no can be excluded from the results. Is there any case where we would want someone who's not a resident weighing in on it?
If they're an employee of the schools or
Right.
the
Or
town,
the town.
or what if they
Okay.
just work in Wellington anywhere?
Hmm.
I don't know.
Right, we said some people might want to opt into a system we have like that simply because they, work in that
They work
area
in
and would want to be made aware of items.
Great.
But the only thing is they wouldn't be paying for it. So I guess,
What if we could ask and then let's see how many, if we get an overwhelming number of non-residents, we need to look at the validity of the results.
So
let's
maybe
We
put
could
it in
if,
as
ask
a
them
question.
and then we could ask them and then ask why if they answer no,
so
Why
maybe
don't you?
or
live-
not ask.
to the motion we already passed is we add one more question that asks, are you a resident of Wellington? Do you work in the town of Wellington, or none of the above?
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah,
Is everyone okay with that, just amending the motion?
Yep.
Good.
All right. Anything else?
One other thing, December 18th, the good old Wellington Crime and Safety Watch on Facebook came out with, there's some crazy guy on foot on Clint Eldridge threatening people. If you see him, please call cops. And there's 120 comments in there. And some of them are asking, why didn't the town of Wellington notify us about this? And this is an example, perhaps, if a notification system were in place, is this an emergency? I guess is one definition. Two, what do people need to know versus what do they want to know? And it's rather, at the very least, entertaining, if not educational, to read how some people are thinking about this. And I think in the end, it talked about, well, the state police are handling it. And people kind of didn't like that answer. And
Well, I think can I say two things to that? And I know Lieutenant Palmer and I talked about this particular instance. The town, learned about it from enough people looking at that site and sharing it with the town. So if they don't communicate with the police, there's nothing for the police to communicate with the town. So it's a little bit of a catch-22 there. Educational is an interesting word on what reading those posts could be called. But I see their point. Without a system, there still is no mechanism. But the town also has to be aware of things, and we don't know everything that and if you don't share it with the powers that be, i.e. the authorities, if you believe there's something unlawful happening, that there's nothing for them to share with us or for us to share with you. So
Sometimes the accuracy of a statement also needs, this might not have been there might not have been a need to put something out from the standpoint of this wild person running around or whatever it said, but just to share and I'm guilty of this. I just did it the other day. When someone puts something on Facebook that is like a one-liner that is not entirely accurate, I will restate if I know the fact because of my position, and it has to do with the Board of Education. I will say the fact, and so I think that's the importance of that. This might not have been an emergency communication, but I think some people don't take Facebook with a grain of salt, and they believe everything they read. And so, I don't know how to address that, but it's like you force communication down people's throat. All you can do is just keep putting things out, unfortunately.
And there's also, into that particular incident, there's a heightened sense of awareness of some things because of what happened in May. And so people are, a little bit more leery of innocent things than they were prior to May 22nd. And we try to be cognizant of that at the same time and be
Sure.
responsible. So in that instance, I received multiple text messages screenshotting a Facebook post. The superintendent, the same thing. We came together, we reached out, and we shared what information we knew. And still, when the alleged person was then confirmed to be out of the area, and there was, to believe no threat to our community. If you continue to read that post, that still wasn't enough, and we don't know that. So there's just, our community is on edge with some things,
Fair.
and social media doesn't always help that. So there's also an assumption that we're just sitting back at the town reading all the Facebook posts that come in and out of these groups, and it's just not possible.
I think this is a perception reality, one of those perception reality things, because the people who are actually the authorities that need to know if this is an emergency, like say in that example, maybe the state police knew exactly what the situation was. There was no need for any other communication. It was being handled. So they're the people who know this is not a community emergency. But if the community perceives it as an emergency, it is now some type of an emergency. It's the incident is not the emergency. It's the public's perception and how they're going to react to this thing. That's become the emergency. And so I think if there is time and the right people know, that could be the other value of a system like this to quell that public perception of an emergency. The principal who works for Phil in that school sent a communication out to the parents. I think he was trying to work very quickly to help allay people's fears. He sent out a communication. That's what drew my attention to it, because I got the email and I was like, what? And then I went on Facebook because I knew there would be chatter, and I saw all the chatter on Facebook. So, that he did sort of his own version of this emergency communication by saying, here's what's going on. It's safe to come pick up your kids.
Right. And
Thank you for saying that better than I did, Mike, but that's my point.
Yeah.
I told Rich to put something out intentionally because it was already 50 comments on Facebook and people saying, why is the school not in lockdown? Because we knew what the situation was. But I guess that's my point of this tool, that it might not be it's the perceived emergency.
Mhm.
Right.
All right. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
So
So-
moved. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, everybody.
Aye.
Stuart?
Aye.